shall we have a chat about meditation and mindfulness today, Ian? I think it'd be a good chat for the podcast.
Well, it is, it's the tips and that, isn't it? How people can get more into the meditation. I'm not clued up, being in all honesty, something I should do really, as in what is mindfulness. So if we start off about the meditation, because we run an online course where it does involve meditating to meet your guide and meditating in general. Have you got any tips that would be of benefit to people doing the course or to listeners of the podcast, Martin?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because obviously I teach mindfulness and meditation to normal people, if you know what I mean. Yeah, non-spiritual, shall we say. And obviously there's two ways of how people experience things. So often when I'm teaching, let's say, a business class or mindfulness, or if I'm teaching them simple meditation, then they will have similar experiences as the spiritual people, but the spiritual people will often interpret this as being spiritual and not actually the basic fundamental aspects of neuroscience and how your brain interprets things that are happening. So I think a good place to start would be to really explain kind of what happens when you do meditation. And obviously we've talked about it before, where you go into different beta waves and alpha waves and that sort of thing. So we'll not talk about that. But from an experiential point of view, that when you start to meditate, the first thing that happens is, because obviously you've got your eyes closed, is and I would say that the first thing that happens is people go into that sort of awareness sensation. They're aware of their surroundings, because it's going back to our origins, where there might be a wolf around the corner, or there might be there might be some sort of threat. So so we become, our senses don't become heightened, if I remember correctly, but what does happen is we place more emphasis on those particular senses. So our sense of smell, our hearing, our feeling. So I think, if I remember correctly, the skin is the largest organ in the body. So
it is,
So if there's any movement of air or wind, we're very sensitive to that. And that's because obviously it might be somebody walking into the room, it might be movement. So straight away you become sort of very hyper aware. That gets better the more you meditate, because if you are in a safe room or safe place that you feel comfortable, that you don't feel that there's a threat anywhere, then what will happen is you will be able to really fully relax. And this is why some people use music, actually, is because actually it blanks out that kind of that dead zone, or it blanks out the noises outside, especially if you live near a busy road or farm or something that's going to distract you. But with repeated meditation, over time, you'll just slip into meditation. And it's very hard to say that to some people, because I do know people say, I struggle with meditation. I can never meditate. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I should be doing. And it is very simple. Meditation is essentially your battle to remove your thoughts. I've said this time and time again, that you might see the most peaceful looking monk sat there, a Buddhist sat there meditating, and you'll think, look how peaceful and quiet he is. But yet in his mind, he's thinking, shall I have peas or carrots with my dinner tonight? And trying to remove that thought. It's about trying to achieve quietness. And by doing that, when a thought comes into your mind, you ask it to move away and move on. And then you pull yourself back to not thinking, to relaxing, listening to your breath. A lot of people, and this is where mindfulness comes in. Now, one thing that mindfulness says is that anything that does happen within your meditation is you mustn't be so judgmental. So if you have to move an arm, or you break wind, or you do anything, scratch, it doesn't matter. It's just you're meditating. It's like moving on a thought. You scratch yourself, that's it. You don't judge yourself. You don't spend the next 10 minutes saying, why did I scratch myself then? I've ruined my meditation. I ruined it. You're not. You're still meditating. You've just got to move on from there. So that's essentially meditation. It's about kind of focusing yourself. You're giving your brain that little bit of time to just kind of relax and focus on yourself. You try to stop the thoughts coming in, and it's not about throwing the thoughts away. If you are worried about something, you do have to address those thoughts, but you don't do it in your meditation. So the best thing to do is you need to say to yourself and make a mental note that why am I keep worried about my sister, or I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
And you have to address that. And that's a whole other sort of emotional intelligence point of view, is why that's affecting you. But during your meditation, make a mental note and say, right, okay, this worry is constantly happening. And then what you've got to do is kind of work your way through the meditation, do 10, 20 minutes if you can, and do it as a regular practice. Meditation is a marathon rather than a quick race. There's no winning of meditation. It's an ongoing practice, like you would.
It is, definitely.
The benefits of it, within a space of two weeks, a month, it makes a real difference. It really does. It's a great thing. Now, when I teach to spiritual people, often they will be very highly aware of things that non-spiritual people are not aware of. So a spiritual person might say that when I close my eyes and I start meditating, straight away I start to see faces. I see faces in the dark. I can see things. I can see almost like a vision. I can see a house. I can see this. And this happens to me. I'll often see a scene or a random image, and that is just the brain ticking over, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you could probably answer it better, but as far as I know, is when you've got your eyes closed and you remove the sense of sight, your brain starts creating images. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, it tries to make sense of what's going on, your thoughts, and it's trying to make itself safe. As you've mentioned earlier, the fight flight might sort of come in. The hair follicles, whatever, the back of the neck type of thing. But your brain wants to make sure that it's still in charge, what's going on, and there's all these things. But images are a little bit like when you have dreams. These things filter through. So I just feel it is the brain just trying to not get rid of, but you get thoughts that come, they're visual, whatever, and then it's just, from my point of view, I would say, if you get visions or whatever, as you mentioned earlier as well, make a note of it, but otherwise just try not to focus on it. Keep on seeing the same images. If you focus on them, it makes you irritated, and your brain wave goes up. But it's almost a case of, just try to let it go.
And this is the difference between spiritual people and non-spiritual, is that when you're teaching a non-spiritual person, they will not give any importance to an image or a face where a spiritual person might do. Now, yes, you could argue and say, well, maybe some of this is mediumistic, but generally, when you are meditating and you do start doing the Meet Your Guide activity that we do on our course, you must build that rapport with your spirit guide to say, once I'm fully meditated, once I'm relaxed, then can you please bring through spirit? And I've said this to a couple of people, that it's a relationship. And at first, your guide and spirit might not be aware when the best time is for you to actually be communicating. So you might hear voices, you might hear or see or feel things. You have to set your own boundaries, and I think what you do have to say is say, right, I'm ready now to communicate with spirit. And I think also as well is, from a mental perspective, it will also stop you focusing on the fluff that the brain creates, all these images and things, and you won't place any emphasis on that. Instead, you'll concentrate on your meditation. You'll have a better meditation session, and then you will be ready to communicate with spirit and have far better. The imagery that you get from spirit in the mind's eye is far stronger than you get from the images that flash up when you are meditating.
Yeah, sorry, Matt. There's a feeling and emotion with them as well, isn't there?
It's like a holographic, and because you feel, you sense that emotion, you sense that you can feel everything. It's almost like life itself. But where when you're meditating and you're getting images, these are just flashing images. It's just like TV, and that's when you know that this is your mind. It's my television just kind of blaring on in the background. But again, by removing that emphasis is like removing your thoughts. You're saying, right, I'm not concentrating on this. I'm relaxing. I'm going to listen to my breathing. That's always a good thing. Listen to your breathing. Feel how your belly moves up and down. feel the air in your nostrils coming in and out, and just relax and just breathe, and you'll get back into it again, and you'll be meditating again. And meditation is a really good practice for mediumship, because what you tend to find is, let's say you're walking around a haunted place, or you want to open up, what you're given a message or something, your brain goes into automatic meditation mode while you're visually awake and operating, but you can feel yourself kind of tuning a radio. We've said before, haven't we? You're kind of tuning yourself, aren't you?
You know, you've made a good point there. It becomes an automative process, you know, where one of the things about dreams and stuff is that science looks at there being a link between the subconscious and conscious mind. There's a very, very thin barrier whereby, you know, thoughts, messages are said one to the other. You've got the central nervous system and the autonomic nervous system, which goes into two separate branches, and these have automated control. You're breathing, you're blinking, you know, that type of thing. So it stands to reason that there are equal parameters within the brain that do also give that. So when you are, as you said, walking around a haunted place, and you know you're sensing things, then it's almost your subconscious mind sending a signal, if you wish, or a letter to the conscious mind, somebody here, and then you just slip into that of a lower brain state comparative to the subconscious mind, you know, and able to work between that bridge between the two of them. The bridge is the word I was trying to get. It just seems one balances it without having to consciously think.
And also as well, what happens with meditation, it also spreads out into your normal life, in that what I found with meditation is I used to be somebody who was very, very reactive. And if somebody was conflicted with me, I'd react straight away and I'd be straight back. But what meditation's actually done is actually slowed me down. And what I mean by that is, if there is a conflict or if there's a question, or my brain now kind of says, whoa, slow down, before it puts my brain into gear before I actually, kind of say things that I shouldn't do. Or it allows me to defuse the situation. It buys me, and I've said it feels like it buys me a lot of time. Yes. And that's probably because of how fast I'm used to reacting. But what it does is actually probably buys me nanoseconds. And during that nanoseconds, I've formulated how I'm going to reply. But rather than reply in a conflictive manner that has come back to me, I'll reply in a more structured view. And I'll also as well is be able to understand what that person is about. So this isn't psychic but what it allows me to do is say, oh, this person's in pain. This person is upset about something. How can I remedy this, rather than coming back and continuing an argument? How can I actually supply compassion and deal with this situation? And I've certainly found over this last 8 years or so, while I've been doing mindfulness, is rather than if I'm with a client and in my marketing life, and if a client's showing unhappiness about certain projects or something, I can deal with it far more constructively, and I don't take on board their comments as being painful or a direct attack on me. I brush that off now. It's really good meditation in that respect. And the more you get into mindfulness, you can do other things like body scans. You can see, you've probably heard that emotions are often hidden away in the body, and it is. And there's, the body works in very, very unusual ways. And it's interesting. I worked with a client, a lady who had a reoccurring elbow issue, a right elbow issue, and it was anxiety. Once she started doing mindfulness, she completely stopped having elbow pain. She'd been told that she'd got tennis elbow by the doctor. She's had scans, she's had everything like that, but it all dissipated. That's because often we bury our emotion into our body, and it sits there and it causes us to tense and to feel anger, and that causes pain in the body. So even mindfulness and meditation, meditation is a great way to get into the mindfulness state, into what you can do in mindfulness and CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. But meditation is a great way for mediums to really calm themselves down when they're ready to give a reading, a message, or walk around in a haunted location, or just to communicate with spirit. It just allows you to slow down and get straight in there. So this is why we're so passionate about it, about meditation, and that's why it's a part of our course, because we know it works. It's about Ian's exercise that he created with spirit, called Meeting Your Spirit Guide, is such a great exercise. I recommend that to everybody. But obviously you've got to purchase the course to do that exercise, and it's only $10.99 on Udemy. But we just thought we'd have a chat about meditation and mindfulness. If you want to maybe send us some questions, and we're always getting questions on our forum. As a part of our course, we do have a support forum where people do ask us questions. We do provide additional activities and support. Then please do email us or contact us through our website. We're happy to maybe do a mindfulness or meditation podcast in the future, answering your questions. So this has been a little bit of a short podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it, but we thought we'd have a little chat about mindfulness and meditation.
And thank you to all the listeners for your support and your lovely feedback.